Rivers is going to have Damian Lillard run very fast out of town. Does he help them win? You're under 500. Aaron Judge helps the Yankees win. You're paying the player $300 million. You better be sure that guy's going to help you get over the hump. For some reason, this guy is completely lost on calling plays. Maybe he's a therapist. Did you see Lamar Jackson cry to the ref? No, he didn't. Welcome to a new show of the Sports Loudmouth. I'm your host, Daryl Marks, my co-host, the Speedster. I'm playing with my hat. Speedy Petey. 631-672-3108 is the number to call. Our executive producer, Mr. Aaron Fishman, and our Sports Minute, Mr. Tommy Scoops is back. Happy birthday to Thomas. Go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Check out all our shows throughout the week, including the Loudmouth with me and Speedy Petey, every single Mondays and Wednesdays at 7:30 p.m. All you have to do to tune in and check out our local listings for all our shows is go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Ian Rappaport reports that Andrew Thomas will get foot surgery and miss the rest of the season. Thomas suffered this injury in the third quarter of the Giants' Week 6 loss against the Bengals. The Giants say that Thomas was feeling the pain after their touchdown drive, but still decided to keep him in the game. Thomas has had multiple ankle injuries and a hamstring injury on the same leg, each of his first two NFL seasons. Brian Dable says that Joshua Azudu will start at left tackle in his place instead of Evan Neal. Thank God. Thomas is in his second year of his 5-year, $117 million deal contract signed last year. And by the way, this is a terrible loss. This is probably one of the bigger losses the Giants have had this season. Losing their best left tackle. The offensive line was finally playing well. It really was. The last two and a half weeks. I say 2.5 because the week that it started playing well, it wasn't until the second half where they were figuring things out. But the offensive line has actually started to play well. And one of the main reasons is Andrew Thomas, who's, to me, the second best left tackle in all of football. And the only problem with Andrew Thomas since he's come into the league is injury. Injuries have really hurt Andrew Thomas. And when he is in the game, you could see that this offensive line works and clicks so very well. And now it scares me. If you're a Daniel Jones fan or if you're a Giants fan, what is Daniel Jones going to do? Is he going to run for dear life? Now, thank God it's not Evan Neal, but you're bringing in Azudu. Azudu, I don't even know who he is.
He was a third-round pick in Shane's first year.
Exactly. I don't know who he is. So what are they going to do on that left tackle if this guy cannot block? Do they shift the line? Do they move the right tackle to the left tackle? I mean, this is a big problem. And there's nowhere you're going to find a left tackle on a scrap heap. They don't just grow on trees. So, I mean, if the Giants had any thoughts or even beliefs that they were going to make the playoffs, this is probably the worst loss they could possibly have. So, I mean, I don't know what more to say about this. Unfortunately, in the position that the Giants have been over the last couple of years, this offensive line has not been good. And over the last 2 years, this guy hasn't been healthy. So even if he was healthy or wasn't healthy, this line has shifted from bad to good. And what are they going to do as the season moves closer to the end? When this offense hasn't had hasn't really had anything in health. Their running back, Singletary, hasn't been fully healthy. They find a running back in the draft. He's finally started I mean, he's finally got an opportunity where he started to play. I mean, there's no consistency with the New York Giants. That's been the problem with the New York Giants over the last couple of years. And I know everybody's going to make the excuse, well, that's not Dable's fault, so he deserves another chance. You can't do that. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Dable is the coach. So he is responsible, even if the injuries are going to cost them wins or even cost them the season. So Dable's going to have to figure this out. I think the Giants and the GM and Joe Shane, if he's such a good GM and if he believes so much in keeping Evan Neal on this roster, well, he needs to figure out what he can do with Evan Neal. Maybe move him to the guard position, move the right tackle to the left tackle, or maybe move one of these guards that could play the left tackle position better if Azedu doesn't know how to play it. The left tackle is the worst position to lose. It's just as bad as the quarterback. Why? Because the left tackle is protecting the quarterback's blind side. Now you're putting the quarterback in a situation where he already knows that he's not going to be safe on that side. So what is he going to do? He's going to shift. He's going to make plays or make optional plays and audible plays at the line of scrimmage when he gets into trouble. And this is what's going to cause interceptions, fumbles, and many different things. So this running game has to be consistent and continue doing what they're doing every single week. And that's getting over 100 yards and keeping the defense what's the best way of keeping the defense
honest?
Yes, honest at the line of scrimmage, where it gives Daniel Jones a little bit more time to use his legs or make quick decisions to get the Giants in the end zone. So this is a terrible loss by the New York Giants.
Yeah, this is a tough one for any position unit, even though Dexter Lawrence is the best player on the team, but they don't have the depth with the offensive line. It's better than it was last year, obviously, but still, like, all these guys are good, like decent, solid starters, but Andrew Thomas is the anchor along with that kind of thing. And Azedu is a natural guard. He was a third-round pick that was supposed to develop as a guard. And when he played tackle when Thomas got hurt last year, did not look great. Evan Neal obviously struggled at right tackle as it is. So trying to put him in as a left tackle, it's going to be very difficult. So in the short term, the Giants definitely are going to have to make it work schematically in order to do that. Maybe take a page out of what Miami has tried to do the last couple of years with Mike McDaniel, because they've had a bad offensive line for a while as well. And the motion and the quick concepts in that offense might have to do it. But long-term, this is something that scares me too, because we've seen a lot of top tackles when they had their first major injury really fall off.
You need to get a drink,
Taylor Lewan is the biggest example of that with Tennessee. I think Ronnie Stanley with the Ravens has been another one. They have not been the same since then. And I think Andrew Thomas, I hope it doesn't hurt that kind of thing, but he's a big body, and this is going to be a huge loss long-term.
There you go. You gargling something over there? How about you, Fish?
No, just kind of on gargling on vomit, because I'm thinking about what Daniel Jones is going to do with Josh Azudo blocking for his blind side. This is the worst possible injury the Giants could have gotten. You're absolutely right, Errol. What does Daniel Jones normally do that messes everything up? He speeds up his timing because he doesn't feel safe in the pocket. And the best guy to keep him safe was Andrew Thomas. Now he has a guy that just got him lit up over and over and over again last year. Now look, if he is competent, that means Carmen Bracilla should be assistant coach of the year of all time here, because him and Neal looked like they shouldn't be in the NFL last year. They were both so bad. Look, Azudu has the speed that he can keep up with the speed rush.
All right, guys. I'm sorry to cut you off. First pick: Shai Alexander, Joel Embiid, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Tyrese Halliburton, or Jason Tatum. Who do you go with?
I would go with Shai, just because there's not a lot of well-rounded point guards.
Really? You want me to go with Shai over Giannis?
Giannis is point guard eligibility.
Yeah, no, he's not a point guard eligibility, but you're gonna go here. You're gonna go Shai over Giannis?
As a player for categories, I think there's harder to find point guards with that many well-rounded.
I don't know, man. Embiid always is the stocking stuffer in fantasy.
But he already said he's not playing. He's not playing a lot of games this year, so I'm not going to trust that. I'm not. What? Well, I got 6 seconds. I'm going to go with Shai. you guys.
Not a lot of time, huh?
It's not. This draft goes fast.
My drafts are like 24 hours for a pick, and they get went over a week.
In this draft, it doesn't work in this draft, guys. You guys gotta Gotta chill on that one. Anyways, yeah. So, how about you, Scoops? What are your thoughts? You're a Giant fan, so
Yeah, you summed it up in a way too. I mean, this offensive line was just finding their groove. This offensive line was actually giving Daniel Jones time in the pocket to pass. So look, man. I mean, it also, and James is saying it over here. Jamie Lee is saying it over here too in the chat too. Evan Neal is absolutely trash. So I mean, Andrew Thomas was really supposed to be this. I mean, the team has always looked at Andrew Thomas as like this. This guy that's going to be the next stepping stone, of course, for the offensive line on the Giants, but. I don't know. This, like you said, Earl, this is a big loss for the Giants right now. I mean, this is a team that really can't seem to a big problem with the Giants within, I would say, even the whole time of me watching the Giants in my lifetime is they don't know how to finish off a game, let alone a season strong. So to be losing someone like Andrew Thomas, it's definitely going to spell very horrible for the end of the season.
Fish, I want to ask you when it comes to technique perspective, like obviously Evan Neal transitioning from the left tackle to right tackle versus Azadu trying to transition to that here. Do you think still maybe is there more upside with Neal than Azadu to try to do that at this point? Or maybe even move somebody like Runyon potentially?
No, there isn't. So generally the idea is guys that work on the left stay on the left, and guys that work on the right stay on the right, because your stance, your foot that's closer to the ball should be up in your stance. So right off the bat, your mechanics are different from left to right. Secondly, it's really about how you balance over each foot. Not everybody is the same. I know, that same thing is like hockey. You have some guys are better right wingers than left wingers.
Right.
Just the angles that you take. It's a little bit like that, I would say. But the general idea is you want to keep the line together. You don't want to move more than one piece if you can avoid it, so that the guys that are already there, they're still doing what they've always done, and there's not like two variables of two new guys doing it. So if you moved Runyon, that means there's also somebody has to take over a guard. So now there's two new guys taking a spot as opposed to one. The problem is the options at left tackle are Azudu and Neal. Now, Neal was on the left side in college, and I'm kind of curious I don't know why they decided not to have him on the left in the first place, other than, Thomas was there. I think he probably is better setting on the left, but they've been sticking with him on the right. And I think also the fact that they were so quick to say Azudu tells you all you need to know about Evan Neal and his progress in the NFL. This guy might not be in the league after this year, after his contract. It's that bad. He can't pick up basic stunts. That it's a problem. So for me, I think if he was, his body is a lot bigger and it's a lot more suited for tackle. But if he was any way capable to do it, he'd be in there right away. And I think it speaks volumes about Evan Neal's future as being, an all-time, bust. He's terrible. It is what it is. I'd love to see him get another chance, but the leash has got to be short for that guy. Yeah, look, if he's going to put on the right, then you have to move Illuminor to the left. Maybe you do that if Azudu doesn't work. But I think that's about it, guys. I don't think you can really fuck with it too. I'm sorry, can't really mess with it too much.
On a Bleacher Report radio station show, Dusty Baker says that Shohei Ohtani and Aaron Judge are in the same conversation as Barry Bonds. Dusty said that they haven't done it long enough to be compared to him all time, but are both very similar at their peak value. He added that both Ohtani and Judge have had faster starts to their careers than Bonds did. He added that Bonds took longer to be thought of in the same conversation as an MLB legend like Hank Aaron or Willie Mays. This season, Ohtani became the first player to hit 50 home runs and 50 stolen bases. This season, Aaron Judge became the fastest player to 300 home runs in his career. It's interesting hearing it from one of the better and well-known managers in Major League Baseball history. And he's been in the league for such a long time. So you have to respect a guy like Baker when he comes out and he tries to, speak about Shohei Ohtani. Shohei Ohtani, again, he is a fantastic player. He's a fantastic talent. He does a lot of things good. He can steal bases. He can hit home runs. He hits for power. He can hit for average. And he's a decent pitcher. I know everybody keeps saying he's a great pitcher. He's a top 10 pitcher. He's not. If you look at his statistics, he's a top 30 pitcher in certain statistics. He doesn't have the best ERA. He doesn't have a top 10 ERA. Last year he did. Not last year. The year before, when he was one of a Cy Young candidate, he was in the top 10 or top 11. but he is not a top 10 pitcher. He really isn't. So I know everybody wants to make the excuses or want to point fingers and say this guy and that guy. Shohei Ohtani is a fantastic talent. Aaron Judge is an everyday player. He is an everyday player. He's hitting 320. He's going to give you 130, 135, or 144 RBIs like he did this year. He's going to do everything right. He's a leader. And I'm not saying Shohei Ohtani's not a leader, but there's a lot of leaders on the Dodgers. It's not just him. So, I mean, you sit here and you figure out what player or who's going to be better every single year. Aaron Judge has been consistent. He hits for average. He does everything. And he played, what did he play? 148 games, 45 games this year. So he's consistent. That's what you want. You want a consistent player. So, and you're going to say, well, Shohei Ohtani's he's not consistent. He is consistent. He's a fantastic talent. But I'm going to take the everyday player. Any way you slice it and you dice it, I'm going to take the everyday baseball player. And that's who he is. Now, Dusty Baker going in and comparing him to Barry Bonds, they're not comparable to Barry Bonds. Stop this crap. Barry Bonds he had 400 home runs and had 400 stolen bases faster than anybody's ever done it. Okay, this guy was a Hall of Famer before he did steroids. As good as, and by the way, he was a 7-time Gold Glove winner in center field, one of the hardest positions to play. So I understand that's the way they're going to go, and that's where Dusty is going to go because he coached and he managed Barry Bonds. He's never coached Aaron Judge. He's never coached Shohei Ohtani. He's just watching the game, and he's a fan of the game. To even compare those guys to arguably the greatest baseball player of all, and you can argue he was one of the great, if not the second or third, he was the greatest baseball player when statistics would show you that he was. So, I mean, it's hard to argue with a guy that coached him, but I'm looking past that. But by the way, now we're up to my guy. I have 56 seconds. Donovan Mitchell. I need a big man. I need a big man, and there's not many. Lauri Markkanen. They took Karl Anthony Towns. It's all the way down looking at the big man. I think where do I go? James Harden, Donovan Mitchell, Devin Booker, LaMelo Ball.
You should have went center earlier.
I shouldn't have listened to Speedy. I was a terrible move. Where do I go here? Do I go Donovan Mitchell here? I mean,
I'm not gonna lie, Markkanen's probably gonna put up a lot of stats on that crap team.
So you go Lauri out of.
Just think about what he's gonna do.
Is he better than Devin Booker? Is he better than Donovan Mitchell? I mean, that's a shooting guard.
It's a fantasy question. You know, it's hard to say that honestly, but if you need the type of player at that center position, no?
Is he good at rebounder? I'm just gonna.
He's gonna stuff. He's gonna stuff all this.
You're not giving me an answer here. Is he a
good
good rebounder?
You're gonna make fun of me all season. When he sucks,
I just took Lauri Markkanen because I listened to you.
So, hey, we got some breaking news, by the way, guys.
What is that?
The Liberty won against the Lynx in that WNBA on a deep three from the logo by Sabrina Ionescu. Wow, pretty wild. I guess we'll have to see the highlights eventually.
I shouldn't have listened to you guys. I am really stupid listening to you guys because I made a mistake. I should have taken Donovan Mitchell and Devin Booker.
Look, I'm gonna tell you right now. His name is Markkanen. Your Marks. I think it works.
That doesn't help. What does that have anything to do with this? I'm listening to you. Take Lauri Markkanen.
It's good luck.
Take Lauri Markkanen. Oh my God! What a terrible move.
Well, you could have had Donovan Mitchell and Embiid if he went the other way around.
Yeah, well, I shouldn't have listened to you, but I was dumb enough to believe it. Anyways, my God, I don't understand why Dusty Baker would bring this up. Honestly, it doesn't. I understand he's trying. He's on a radio show and he wants to. If somebody brings up somebody that he coached or he managed, and he wants to compare the two great baseball players, the two best baseball players in the league. So obviously that's what they're going to do. But I just think it's a little foolish to bring up two great players and compare them to arguably the greatest or the second greatest baseball player of all time. So it's just it's weird to even, and by the way, maybe, as crazy as it may sound, Dusty Baker's an old man. I mean, he's a little out there. I don't know if I'm going to take Dusty Baker on anything that he says when it comes to that stuff. That's just my opinion. And my argument to that. Unfortunately, I do like Dusty Baker as a person, and I think Dusty Baker is a great manager. don't know if I'm going to take his word for it on that.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because he's honest in the fact that obviously they all have to do it more, and especially Ohtani. We were talking about it when Deion Sanders made the comments. Like, Ohtani needs at least 5 more years of being a pitcher in order to do that kind of thing, to be that trendsetter to change the game, because he's doing it as a two-way player, which we were talking about on Monday. Like, that's going to bring more war to your game. That's going to be harder to do than being a defensive player because you're pitching and you're throwing 90 to 100 pitches a game. That's harder to do than obviously being an everyday outfielder. But if you're not just being a DH, then it's going to take value. And Dusty noticed that kind of thing. He said, all right, him being a DH downgrades him compared to Barry Bonds, downgrades him compared to somebody like Willie Mays, who played center field. And he was like a 13-time Gold Glover in center field. And somebody like Hank Aaron.
Beanie, you better get a drink of water.
Somebody like Hank Aaron,
man, seriously,
who played the outfield before the DH even came into baseball in 1973. So I understand his argument from that kind of standpoint too. Somebody like Aaron Judge will just need the longevity too. They're both right there to be able to do it, but both of them still have major questions when it comes to like a 7-year peak that he'll need to get to even Barry Bonds level.
All right, so we're up again, and I got 55 seconds. I think I'm going Bam out of bio. Okay, I got LaMelo Ball. All right. Kyrie Irving, that might not be such a bad. De'Aaron Fox, Paul George. Now, you need rebounding in fantasy. You need rebounding. Fred Van Vliet, Jalen Williams, Jalen Johnson, Jaren Jackson Jr., DeJounte Murray, Bam Adebayo. I think I'm going Bam. I'm going to go.
I think
I'm
Bam
not
makes
taking
sense.
your word for it after some of the stupid things you just told me. I'm going Bam Adebayo anyways. There you go.
You know, Speedy, you bring up the DH part for Ohtani. The thing that I thought was even more fascinating that Dusty said was that Judge strikes out and Barry Bonds never struck out. Barry Bonds had the contact skills that just you dream of. And Errol, you're older than me. Speedy, I don't know how old you were when this happened.
For pissing me off even more.
You're welcome.
Errol, you're older than me. Well, thank you.
But
thank you for making
I was in high school at the time, Errol, so you might have watched more of it, stayed up later. Bonds on that steroids tear that he was on those few years when he was in San Francisco. I've never seen anything like that. Not even what Judge is doing this year. It's not even remotely in the same ballpark, in my opinion. I guess it's in the same conversation according to Dusty. But what you don't even realize, like, they were walking him with the bases loaded. That literally happened to Barry Bonds. That's like the all-time. You're just too good at baseball. He had on-base percentage close to 500. It's just out of control. His OPS was like 1,400 close to it a couple of times. Judge, we're getting excited about it being close to 1,100. So it's really not the same. Bonds could see the ball. If you threw it anywhere near the plate, it was gone. You just had to hope that you jammed him, and it never happened because he was so quick turning on the ball. It was really only things that would ride up and in on him, if I remember correctly, that he just couldn't really turn on as well. And it had to be a great pitch. But the guy hit everything. It was unbelievable. And before that, he was a Gold Glove outfielder. He was stealing bases like Ohtani, but playing Gold Glove defense. He was incredible. He had average. He did it all. So it's really just kind of the best aspects of what Judge and Ohtani do, along with like
just don't know how this gets brought up in conversation. I'm sorry to cut you off. I don't know how this gets brought into a conversation trying to compare Ohtani and Judge to arguably the greatest baseball player of all time. It doesn't make none of those guys are going to win 7 Gold Gloves as quick as Barry Bonds did. None of them. Okay. And if there was war in that time, he would by far have the best war in all of baseball in Barry Bonds. And he was a good power hitter even before he did steroids. So I know he wants to get all the fans, yipped out of their minds. I mean, they probably are yipped out of their minds, believing that Dusty Baker believes that any one of these two guys are as good as Barry Bonds, but there's not a chance in hell. And I don't care what Aaron Judge does for the rest of his career and Shohei Ohtani does for his career. None of those guys will ever be better than Barry Bonds. Ever. Okay? Ever. Barry Bonds did it in almost 3 decades. I mean, that's how good he was. And he did it in a time where baseball was transitioning, changing, and he still was doing it at the top of his game. I know he did steroids, and I know that's what steroids doesn't make you see the ball better. I say this all the time. This man was being pitched around. This guy had one pitch every time he was up, and he had to guess that that one pitch was going to be in the strike zone. It is unbelievable what Barry Bonds did. He is not only the most sensational player I've ever seen, he had the best eye when it came to the plate I've ever seen in Major League history in my time. You will never see Barry Bonds at any time of his career get into a slump like this ever from Aaron Judge.
I gotta give you a stat. This is the funniest stat I've ever heard. This tells you everything. Speedy, your mind's gonna be blown.
All right.
So, like, if you're a good player, a good hitter, you usually have like a walk rate that's even with your strikeout rate, maybe slightly better. Like Pujols famously was slightly better than that when he was going well. So Judge strikes out when he was first coming into the league, it was closer to 30%. He's around 22% right now. There's a year in Barry Bonds' career where he had a 6.6 strikeout rate and a 37.6 walk rate. And he had multiple years of over 30 and under 10. It's just absurd. It's like video game numbers if you played on easy. That's how good Barry Bonds was. There's no conversation to be had if it doesn't include Babe Ruth and I don't even know who else. Maybe Ted Williams is the only other guy that you're talking about with Barry Bonds when he was going on the juice. It's not even close. And with off the juice, we do have the WAR numbers, Errol. He was putting up WARs that are equal or better to Judge almost every year. And when he was in the 90s, when he wasn't hitting the 70 home runs, he was still.
What did Keith say over here? I didn't see it. Willie Mays, Mantle, Ruth, Williams, Aaron, Bonds, greatest players. He had way more power after the roids, though.
Yeah,
that's fine.
But he was still great before that.
Again, we already know, but roids don't make you see the ball better. And Barry Bonds still had the eye to hit the ball no matter what. And he stole a lot of bases too. So everybody keeps talking about Ohtani. He was good in everything that he did. Right. Not just defense, not just stealing bases, not just hitting for power or even hitting for average. The guy is honestly, I'm not going to put him over Babe Ruth, but he is the second greatest baseball player to ever play the game. It's not even an argument. And the fact that anybody, including Dusty Baker, who is a friend of Barry Bonds and also managed him, to say this or even say that you can bring them in the same conversation, that's not true. Absolutely not true. Barry Bonds, I don't care if he did steroids. I don't care if he didn't do steroids. When he didn't do steroids, he had some of the greatest numbers. And when he did steroids, he had one of the most extraordinary numbers when it comes to walk and strikeout ratio. It's stop with this. I don't understand why anybody would even argue this.
One of our new fans, Adrian Gutierrez, says roids give you extreme more power and way more alert.
That's fine,
but they also say it doesn't increase bat speed though. So in some ways, it's not going to help everything. And again, we're not saying that every guy with steroids should be a Hall of Famer. Barry Bonds is one of the greatest players before steroids too.
Yeah, and Willie Mays, he says Willie Mays is the greatest. Guess who his godfather was? I mean, guess who his godson was? Barry Bonds. Okay, and Willie Mays,
the craziest thing, boys.
Yes.
Sorry about that. Yeah, rest in peace, William Mays. That wasn't that long. Was it within the past year or is it 2 years ago? Yeah. Something like that.
It was a while ago.
Errol, they used to have kayaks out in the water past right field, and that everyone had these like fishing nets just in case Barry Bonds hit one into the water, which almost all of his home runs that went that way did because he had so much power. It was like this cultural phenomenon. Look, Judge is having a great year, but it's not like that. It's not taking over. Look, the story goes, and you guys could correct me if I'm wrong. He has Ken Griffey Jr. over at his house in '98 after McGwire breaks the record, and they're talking about, hey, we're both better than those guys. They were the top two guys before those guys took the juice in the league by far. Griffey was incredible until he started aging and getting hurt, and Bonds we have already just spoken about. And then at that meet and that time they meet, Griffey decides that he would never do that, and Bonds decides to do it. And then from that point forward, Bonds was the best player in the world until they forced him to stop playing baseball, which is basically what happened. It was something that was just part of that time period. I hate that we don't put him in the Hall of Fame because he's by far the best player I think any of us have ever seen that saw, because I didn't see Willie Mays play. I didn't see Babe Ruth or Ted Williams play. I'll tell you what, though, Barry Bonds was the best thing I've ever seen, and it's not particularly close. And I love Aaron Judge, but let's not be silly here. That was Babe Ruth type stuff.
How about you, Scoops? Your thoughts? I mean, obviously, you have your own thoughts to the whole Barry Bonds, Shohei Ohtani thing. Unfortunately, I don't understand how this was brought into a conversation on a radio show to compare any one of those guys to this guy. I just, there's no comparison. Like Keith says, the only players that you can compare him to is probably the ones that he mentioned, if that. And I wouldn't even, some of those players I wouldn't even compare them to anyway. So I don't know. It's crazy. By the way, before I let you go, Paul George, Fred VanVleet, Jalen Williams, Jaren Jackson Jr., Jimmy Buckets, Derek White, Franz Wagner, Emmanuel Quickly, Miles Turner. Where would you go with any of those guys?
Jimmy.
I would go with Jimmy Buckets too. I would.
That's where
Who was
every
the
year I
first one
pick
you
Jimmy
said?
Buckets. He just has to stay healthy. What?
Paul George, I think.
Who was the top?
Paul George. I'm not picking.
Paul
Can't
George
stay
might
healthy.
have some big numbers.
He's out for a significant amount of time.
Yeah, I would say Jimmy is the pick. Jalen Williams would be your second option.
You think Jimmy Butler's playing the whole season?
I think he's playing more than Paul George. Paul George is out for at least a month. At least a month with the injury.
And there's no guarantee he can't re-injure it.
Just a longer preseason. It's all right. You know, this NBA season's so long.
Listen, if I go with what you guys are picking, I'm gonna lose. Okay.
Hey, I got the second most points in the entire league in all 22 with all those experts in there. I'm crushing it right now.
No, stop. Experts, yes. Give me the experts. Go ahead.
No, yeah. I mean, you going back to what you just mentioned too a little bit before, Errol. Dusty Baker's a very old man. He's very up there in age. So for him to say something kind of outlandish like that, it's not that it's like I agree with or that it's like it's something that's in the realm, but it's like it's in the realm of him being old. Like we expect something like this from an 80-something-year-old man. So I mean, honestly, he is talking about Aaron Judge and Ohtani, who I think we've always said it too. These are some of the best players that we've really seen in the last few years of baseball and everything. So personally, I think that they're really great players, but to call them just as good as, or in the same convo as Barry Bonds is a little outlandish from someone like Dusty.
Well, I will say this. I know everybody's going to sit here and probably attack me on this whole situation. Shohei Ohtani, even with what he is doing now, and it is pretty amazing, I would if he does this for the next 7-8 years, he will never be compared to any one of these guys still. Okay. Aaron Judge too. I'm not putting those guys in anywhere close to the conversations of the players that we just mentioned. Mickey Mantle, Joe DiMaggio, Ted Williams, Babe Ruth, none of those guys. Any one of those guys, Barry Bonds. I mean, even what A-Rod did. I know everybody don't like him. They call him A-Royd and all that others. A-Rod was one of the greatest hitters, one of the greatest players of all time. Say whatever you want. It's the truth. So it's just, I know everybody's going to go back and forth and again, try to compare the greatest baseball players to the players that are in the league and dominating in the league right now. I don't know if they're comparable.
All right. We got Jeff on the phone now.
Oh, Jeff.
Jeff, what's up?
I don't know how you can put Ohtani with Barry Bonds, right? Like pre-steroids, like there's no doubt Barry Bonds was great. I'm not saying that he wasn't, right? But pre-steroids for Barry Bonds, he was like a 30-30 guy, stole bases, he hit home runs, right? And that's where I'm going. How can you say the league's first 50-50 guy isn't as good as Barry Bonds? He's not ever going to come up with the career numbers because he spent so much time in Japan. Like, that's like their rule or whatever. You got to play there before you come over here. So, like, he'll never reach the career numbers because the mandatory time you got to spend in Japan before you come over here. But on a season-to-season basis, Barry Bonds never came close to 50-50.
Well, he was 40-40 in a couple instances. And Fish brings up a good point in our private chat. He hit 320 pretty consistently every year with that. Ohtani did it this year with the higher batting average and the higher OPSs. But like Fish was saying before, like those stats that he had with the intentional walks, Ohtani's never going to get to.
Right, yeah, like, but the intentional walk stats was because he was hitting it 7 miles because he was on the juice. And the juice does matter because if you take an elite level athlete
Jalen
like Barry
Williams?
Bonds,
Would you go with
who
Jalen Williams?
already has the hand-eye coordination and things like that, like you're not going to take a terrible player and give him steroids and make him that much better. But if you take an elite athlete like Bonds and give him steroids, it's going to make his home run numbers go crazy. So that's where the intentional walks came from. They weren't intentionally walking him when he was with the Pirates.
No, but again, they're still going to inflate it enough where I think, yeah, maybe he would have had 500 something home runs if he wasn't doing steroids, but he still would have gotten it to that point. And I think right now Ohtani still has to do it at that level. The Japanese baseball is completely different. And again, we're going to combine those stats for Ichiro. We can combine the stats for Ohtani too. But right now, from the all-time standpoint, I think Ohtani still has to do it in that span as a pitcher too, because the two-way element is part of what made him that breakthrough, transcendent baseball player.
Right. Look, there's always going to be the people like Errol in the world that are like, he doesn't play both ways because he pitches. Like, that stupidity that's out there. Like, pitching is a hard thing. It does take rest. So it's like, yeah, he doesn't play the field every day like Bonds, and that's something to be said. But from an offensive standpoint, the way he is on the base paths and hitting home runs, he's right there with Bonds. And, by the way, clean so far. Like, we don't know that he's doing steroids like,
Clean?
Bonds.
Oh, he's clean, huh? He's clean. He didn't.
What performance enhancers is he on?
I'm going to tell you he's not clean. I'm telling you what he's not clean. I'm going to tell you how he's not clean. I don't know. He was betting on baseball. That's not clean as far as I'm concerned. He was doing things that he shouldn't have been doing. Yes.
Right. Okay.
Barry Bonds didn't do that.
Betting on
Barry Bonds didn't do it. So
Barry Bonds.
He didn't do it.
First of all, you're talking about two different things.
Really?
Betting's not a performance enhancer.
It doesn't matter. That's cheating. What are you talking about? He should have been thrown out of baseball. McKee Rose is not even inducted into the Hall of Fame because of betting on baseball. This man,
it's good that we don't live. It's good that we don't live in a world where you make decisions, because he wasn't even charged with a crime or.
No, because baseball brushed it. Because baseball brushed it under the rug. That's why.
Well, it's a good thing Rob Manfred's running the FBI now, right?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, they paid him. You're going to tell me that the MLB didn't pay off the FBI? I mean,
where's your evidence?
I don't have to have evidence. I mean, it's common sense. It's common sense. In 2 weeks.
The evidence I need. You're gay.
Thank you, Jeff, for calling.
Right,
I don't have time.
We don't need to have evidence.
I don't have time. I don't have time for this.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Come on. I told you to hang up on him. What the hell? I
put your hands like this all the time.
I'm telling you to go down. What the hell? He's
down.
Honestly, I love Jeff. And by the way, shout out to Jeff and all the people in Tampa that were dealing with that hurricane. It's horrible what happened. But honestly, are you kidding me? You're going to tell me that has nothing to do with it? That's cheating. That's cheating. It doesn't matter about his game. And first of all, and I'm not saying as far as talent is concerned, to even put Shohei Ohtani in the same conversation as Barry Bonds did it in 2 decades. How long has Shohei Ohtani been in the major leagues?
Since 2018.
4 years. 4 years. Okay. What is it, right? 4 years? What is it?
This is year
6. What is it?
7 for him.
All right. 7 years. And how many times is he, how many years has he been injured?
Probably a combined about 1.5 years, 2.
Okay. So 2 years. So you're going to sit here and tell me you're going to compare him to Barry Bonds right now? What are you, nuts? Let's see him do it in 20 years, which he's not going to be able to because he came into the major leagues later in his career. So he's not even going to do it. Barry Bonds did it at the top of the game in the biggest league in all of baseball, in the whole world when it comes to MLB, when it comes to baseball, professional baseball. It's not the Dominican Republic. It's not Japan. He did it in the majors as long as he did. And I'm sorry. No, it's not comparable. It's not. Shohei Ohtani is not Barry Bonds. Stop with this garbage. It is ridiculous. Jeff, you can say whatever you want. You can say whatever you want to attack me. You want to call me gay or whatever the hell you've been saying, or stupid crap that comes out of your mouth half of the time. I think it's funny, but sometimes I just think you're outlandishly crazy. This is crazy. This is dumb to even bring it up. I don't know how this got brought up in a conversation on a radio station. I understand that I respect Dusty Baker. Dusty Baker is an old man. He's a geezer. I am not listening to Geezer Man tell me or even bring up Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani in the same conversation as Barry Bonds. Ridiculous. Stupid and ridiculous. In an interview with Sports Illustrated, Wemby said it's surprising that a lot of NBA stars lack work ethic. Wemby added that a lot of the NBA players he looked up to as a kid don't work as hard as they should. He praised Kevin Durant and Rudy Gobert. I'm trying to look at it. It's crazy. I'm looking at the draft and trying to host a show. Specifically for having good work ethics, but said some of the other Team USA players did not work as hard. He added the saying, never meet your heroes, was true on many occasions when playing against them head to head. He didn't specify which star players he was referring to, but he said a lot of them don't have the same competitive drive that stars of previous eras had. Okay, I don't know where this conversation came up, and again, I respect Wemby and Wembanyama, and I hope he becomes the player that everybody thinks he's going to be. As far as NBA players, stars lacking work ethic, how does he know? How long has he been in the NBA? He's been in the NBA, what, 1 year? And he's now his training. I watched his training method. His workouts are ridiculous for a guy that thin doing the things that he's doing. It's pretty amazing. It is pretty amazing what Wembanyama is doing. And hey, he could be the face of basketball moving forward. He's not yet. And the fact that he says they lack work ethic, well, I don't know about that. Even Julius Randle, who a lot of people have taken shots at his work ethic. Julius Randle shoots 200 foul shots every single day. He claims he shoots 100 3-pointers every single day after practice. Is that a lack of work ethic? I mean, how does he know? Is he over there practicing with the other players? I mean, he works out in San Antonio, and he has a great coach, by the way. Greg Popovich is a great NBA mind. The fact that he is saying that Wemby is coming out and he's surprised that they lack, a work ethic. He plays for France. Did he go over there to practices for Team USA? How does he know this? I mean, unless he's talking to other players and he's butt buddies with other players in the NBA. He praises Kevin Durant. Oh, that's a great person to praise. And Rudy Gobert. Oh, that is a slam dunk. Let's go ask. I don't know. Let's go ask guys on Golden State if they praise Rudy Gobert. I mean, seriously. And Rudy Gobert is French. He's from France. So, of course, he praises him. And Kevin Durant, his work ethic? Come on, guys. Are we joking ourselves here? I like Kevin Durant as a player. I think he's a fantastic talent. He's one of the greatest long, lengthy, 6'10" power forwards we've ever seen in the NBA. And one of the better shooters at his position, too. He's a fantastic shooter. Kevin Durant is lackadaisical. The only thing that he's not lazy at is, going on Twitter and having 7 Twitter accounts and finding ways to pretend that it wasn't him. I mean, that's not lazy. I guess you could say that he's not lazy because he built 7 Twitter accounts with thousands and thousands of followers, and he claims it wasn't him. So I disagree with Wembanyama. I do, because I don't know how he knows what the other players are doing on other organizations, on other teams, and on other practice floors. It doesn't make any sense. I disagree with him.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think he's kind of taking an international versus U.S. jab, too. We were talking about the Team USA rivalries over the summer, too, and some of the ex-players saying that they train better in Europe. And I do believe with him that to an extent. But at the same time, I think the ones he's praising, Kevin Durant, Rudy Gobert, are not really like the only ones that are like that. Like, I think Jason Tatum has a good work ethic. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Some of these other younger players this generation, I think, do. I think it's the previous generation, the Kevin Durant and LeBron generation, that are like, all about themselves.
By the way, I'm gonna cut off. You know what's so funny? I want to go over here with Keith because I honestly believe Keith is in love with Jeff. I honestly believe Keith would get on his hands and knees and give Jeff a nice little swirly. And you know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to say it on live radio. I really do believe it. Every single thing Jeff says, he agrees with everything he says. It doesn't matter if Jeff says something sexual or anything stupid. He will go out there and say, oh, man, that guy's unbelievable. he's the greatest. I mean, seriously, it is so ridiculous.
I want you to slide it right in.
I think he does want to slide it right in. I think it's absolutely ridiculous, honestly.
Fish, you might need to update the Ohtani graphic with the toilet and put
who do I go with?
Who do I go with?
Derek White, Bradley Beal, Tobias Harris, D'Angelo Russell. I'm gonna go with Isaiah Hartenstein because he's a rebounder.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's like him or White would be the only two I would consider.
I don't have any. I need some guard.
I wouldn't trust D'Lo or Bradley.
Sounds like it's getting a little thin over there.
It is getting thin. Speedy, he knows all about it, and I think maybe Jeff knows all about that too, and maybe Keith needs to show him a thing or two. I don't know.
Fish, I was gonna say you need to update the Ohtani graphic with the toilet and either put Keith's head or Jeff's head.
I think it's ridiculous. I think everything Jeff says, Keith agrees with every single thing. And by the way, when Keith is on with Jeff, he'll let Jeff speak. He won't let me speak. He will let Jeff talk, but he will not let me speak. It is so friggin' hilarious. And by the way, Keith, he's wrong. Shohei Ohtani is not going to be the best. He's not going to have enough time to be the best. For you to say that he's going to be the best shows you how stupid you really are. So if you want to go and kiss Jeff's little behind or whatever you want to kiss, get on your hands and knees. It probably is not going to be too tough for you. Get on your hands and knees and do it. I'm so tired of listening to him. Oh, he knows what he's talking about. Oh, trust me, he knows what he's. No, he doesn't. As a matter of fact, Keith, if you ever listen to the show as long, or you've listened to the show longer than most people, you would know that Jeff is not always right. As a matter of fact, he's more wrong than he is right. So you don't know what you're talking about. So wrong again, Keith. This is what pisses me off about you, Keith. You say things because you think you know, and you don't know crap. You don't know crap. And I am going to say it on live radio. You are a complete idiot. A complete idiot. If you're going to agree, if you're going to agree with an idiot, you're an idiot, okay? And that's all I'm going to say. It is completely stupid to compare anybody, including Shohei Ohtani and Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge came into the league when he was 25 years old. Barry Bonds came into the league when he was like 19, 20 years old. 20 years old and dominated in Pittsburgh. He was the face of the Pittsburgh Pirates. Pat, let me ask you a question, Keith, because you know everything. When was the last time the Pirates, a good organization? I don't know. When Barry Bonds was there. Completely stupid. You know what, Keith? I am so sick and tired of some of your stupidity. And I'm going to tell you, I came out and I was trying to be nice. I'm not going to be nice with you anymore. You are an idiot. You are a complete idiot. You and Jeff should hang out with Snug. You guys could be perfect for one another. You can have a threesome in a bed. Because that's all you guys talk about. You talk about the same crap, and you guys hang on each other's ball sacks. I am tired of it. What?
3 guys.
3 guys what?
That was from the soundboard.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know why you even cut it. To me, I am just tired. I am so tired of listening to Keith give Jeff all the props. And honestly, Jeff is not right. He is not right about this, and he's not right about a lot of things. And to come up, and then when Jeff is wrong, you'll never hear from him. You'll never hear from him. Jeff has lost bets, and I've never made him live up to his bets, like eating dog crap. You weren't even listening to the show at the time, Keith. He sat there and told me all this crap, and I didn't even force him to do it. Why? Because I wanted to prove a point. And then he says, I'll do it. I would have done it. I would have done it. You had a time limit. Who made you boss? You lost the bet. And as far as Wembanyama is again, and what I was saying, how the hell does he know what players are doing in their spare time? Does he hang out in their house? Does he hang out in their basketball courts inside of their houses? I heard from different I've heard from Damian Lillard. Damian Lillard shoots, 200 3-pointers every single practice? How the hell does Wembanyama know? And I don't care if he's he's just looking at what they do international. He doesn't know. And anybody that praises Kevin Durant and Rudy Gobert, that automatically takes him out of the conversation. And I wouldn't even compare or even listen to a player of that magnitude. That's just my opinion.
Quickly before you go, Fish, I just want to finish off with this too. I think one of our basketball guys was saying there's certain teams that don't do shoot arounds either, but I think that's also more on the team, not really on the players lacking work ethic either.
Yeah, so I think it boils down to this, Errol. He's kind of a prick. That's
Oh.
that's that's what Wembanyama is. He's kind of a dick about things, isn't he? And I think that's an interesting little aspect of the character we're learning about this kid as he's getting older. Look, if he's talking smack that like no one works as hard as me and he's 20, I think the future is really bright for this kid. He's just going to try to rip everyone's head off. He might be that generational talent. I worry because he's so skinny, but if he could put on some size and stay, knock on wood, stay healthy. That kind of mentality is the kind of mentality you see
All
superstars
right.
have.
I'm
where,
sorry to
like
cut you off.
Kobe,
All right, we're up. We're up again. Derek White,
take
Bradley
White.
Beal,
You need a guard.
D'Angelo Russell, Josh Giddey, Devin Vesey, Drew Holiday. That's not bad. Colin
Take the guy with the most
Sexton,
assists. You need assists.
Bogdanovich, Jordan Poole, OG Anunoby. Who do you go?
The guy with the most assists
Derek
is
White?
going to be White.
Would you go with Derek
I would
White?
go Derek White.
All
White.
right. I'm going to go with White, even though I like Drew Holiday too. All right, I'll go White. All right.
Yeah. So just to finish up that last thing, like I really think that I really liked it that he said this, and the guys that he picked were such the guys that you pick if you're just trying to be a dick about it. Like you said, Durant and Gobert. Nobody thinks Gobert is like he gets defensive player of the year, but gets dusted by every guard that he has to go out and guard. Nobody's scared of Gobert. You just can't play a certain way against him. So and everybody knows Durant's not that same guy anymore. Look, he's probably gets up more shots. He probably has greatest shooting practices you've ever seen, Durant. But let's face it, he could have picked a few other guys way before those two in that decision. So look, Wembanyama, he's disappointing other players, but it's really because he's just talking smack to everybody. He's mad about losing the gold medal. He's going to be on a vengeance this year. We should have told you.
I don't think so. I don't think he's doing that. I think he really does believe that. I think he really believes that. Well, let him do that. I really don't think he's going to be as good as everybody thinks he's going to be. Until proven otherwise, I don't know why he's opening his mouth. Go out there and prove it. Don't open your mouth. Now teams are going to have his name on the board to smack around. Okay, dude. He still needs to put on meat. You're talking about. You're going to say that to I don't know Wembanyama or even any one of these guys. DeAndre Ayton. Do that to DeAndre Ayton and see what's going to happen to you. Okay? I just think it's stupid. I don't even know why he's opening his big mouth. It just puts him in harm's way. It puts him in a bad position. Okay? Because he's got to put up or shut up. Now, I think Wembanyama is going to be a good player. He's a fantastic talent. The crying is hilarious. Okay. All right. You know what's so funny about Jeff? He's got something to say after the fact everybody said it. But anyways, I think Wembanyama is a good player. I think he could become the face of basketball, but he's not right now. And he shouldn't be opening his mouth and making himself look like a sour person. Go out there and show that you're the face of basketball. Because right now, as much as you think you are, you're not. You're still not the face of basketball right now. Who's the face of basketball right now? It's still LeBron James. He is still the face of basketball until otherwise. And I'm not just speaking. You speak about all these great players that you have: Luka Doncic, Nikola Jokic. The face of basketball still to this day, over what 22 years, is LeBron friggin' James. And until proven otherwise, he will never be as big and as popular as LeBron James has been over the last 22 years. So I disagree.
Yeah, Scoop.
Yeah, I didn't know Wembanyama won, is like a 3-time NBA Finals champ. I didn't know he's been in the league for like 12 years. I didn't know he had all these all-team pros. I didn't know he was this tenured to call out other people's work ethics. Because come on, you guys are just mentioning it. This dude was only in the league for a year. So I mean, personally, I do want to bring up something that Fisher said too. I mean, I do think he's of course upset about the gold medal. So I think that personally, he's going to be carrying a chip going into the season, because that's pretty much like the farthest that a team that he's been on with the NBA, well, sort of in the NBA, that he's accomplished to winning something while in the NBA. So I think that he's carrying this chip, and he's kind of coming off a little bit aggressive. He is with Greg Popovich, like you were mentioning, who you no doubt can't deny Greg Popovich's work ethic. I mean, his work ethic is amazing. And you know that the players that are on the court at all times, they're going to be working at their full work ethic going on to your second year. It's just, insane. So I think he just needs to keep his mouth shut.
Until he proves that he is amongst the league's best. He's still not amongst the league's best. He had a good season last year as a rookie, and he won Rookie of the Year. But there were some arguments at some points of last year. What was it last year? He was rookie? Yeah, he was a rookie last year. Last year, at some points, he wasn't. Some people didn't even think he was the Rookie of the Year. So he still has a lot to prove. He shouldn't be opening his mouth going into his second year, because now you have these veteran players that are going to have his name on the board. And every night when they play San Antonio, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to slam him on the ground and beat the hell out of him. And again, he still has a lot to prove as an NBA player before he can go out there and say that he's the great, that other players are not. They don't have a good work ethic in the NBA. What is he saying over here?
Wemby's going to be the greatest basketball player ever if he stays healthy. He's a freak. Popovich needs to retire. Durant was one of the great. He's smooth, not lazy. Nobody's saying Wemby's lazy, Keith. Nobody's saying that he says every player is lazy. But, I mean, I think he's more taking a shot at that LeBron generation that thinks they're, like, bigger than the world.
First of all, and I'm going to say this before we go. Wembanyama is not going to be the greatest to ever play. You can bank that. Bank it. And I can't wait when he isn't. So I could stick it to Keith. I don't care what Keith knows about basketball, how much he thinks he knows about basketball, just as much as he thinks he knows about baseball. Wembanyama is not going to be the greatest basketball player of all time. And you can bank that. You can tie it up and do whatever you want with it, Keith. You can book it. Remember, I said that I will cut this out and put it on the top of my list to stick it to you 20 years from now. Wembanyama is not even going to play more than 14 years in the NBA because he's never going to stay healthy. Okay. Not with those stilt legs. Good luck on that. And by the way, for all the people out there that are on social media, when I was trying to compare and look at his size and his mobility and his lengthy legs and thin legs and stilts, and they tried to say that, well, Giannis was just like that. First of all, Giannis is not 7'5". Okay. Giannis is 7 foot. 5 inches is a lot. That's a lot. And by the way, I remember the last 7'5" guy that was in the NBA. You know who that was? That was Yao Ming. Remember that? It was Yao Ming. He was 7'4", 7'5". How many years did Yao Ming play in the NBA? How many? 10? 11? He couldn't stay healthy. He had foot problems. Okay? And what do you think is going to happen to a big man like this? He's going to have foot problems. He's going to have knee problems. He's going to have ankle problems. You watch. Mark my words. This guy will not stay healthy for his full career. And I'm going to be riding to the bank because I'm right about this. This guy is not as good as everybody says he is. He's going to be a great player. He's going to be a top 10 player, top 5 player at some points of his career. There's no question that he's going to be. To say that he's going to be the greatest player of all time, you can book that. That's not going to happen. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Played 9 seasons. We're talking about Yao Ming. He played 9 seasons.
How tall was he?
And 7'6" or so? No.
7'4".
I'm pretty sure he was 7'4", 7'5".
7'5", it shows right here.
Yeah,
but yeah, he played 9 seasons. In the last 2 seasons, he didn't really play. The 2009, 2010, he didn't play at all. And then 10 and 11, he only played 5 games. So really just like 7 seasons he played.
Yeah.
What he's saying,
I played a long time in
look
China.
at the new listener. He agreed with Jeff. Good.
Yeah.
Listen, I don't care what the new listener says. Keith, listen to me. And I'm gonna be very, very nice about this with you. I don't know what this love fest is with Jeff. I'm going to tell you this right now. Jeff is wrong about 70% out of the 100 times that he speaks about whatever he says and whatever he argues with. So you can agree with him all you want, okay? When Wembanyama is not the greatest of all time, I will make sure to let you hear it. And as far as trying to compare Ohtani to Barry Bonds is such a ridiculous statement. If you told 10 baseball experts that, they look at you and think that you were on drugs. And that's all I'm going to say. I don't care if he did steroids. Honestly, before he did steroids, he's still one of the greatest baseball players of all time. Hitting 400 and 400 as quick as he did says a lot about the player that he was. And as far as Ohtani's concerned, we're not even going to. Ohtani's overpaid, and he's not an everyday player, and he's never going to win 7. You heard it. 7 gold gloves, even at his position. So already you can't even compare these guys. This guy was the greatest defensive player of all time, the greatest power hitter of all time, and one of the greatest power hitters of all time, and one of the greatest stealers of all time, even in the beginning of a career, when in the beginning of a career when he was light and he was very fast and he was very what do they call it?
Nimble.
No, nimble, whatever. Nimble as a player. He was fantastic. I'm sorry, I would not compare him to or Shohei Ohtani or anybody to Barry Bonds in his greatness. So that's it. It's so ridiculous. I don't understand why I'm even arguing this. It's so stupid. It's so dumb. I don't care what the listener says. I really don't care. I don't care. And I'm tired of you agreeing. And I'm going to say something to you, Keith, because I'm going to do it off air because I think you need to hear this personally, because I think you need to really start listening to other people instead of listening to people that really don't know what they're talking about. Okay. And if you think that he does, you're just as stupid as he is. So anyways, that's it for our show, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to thank all the fans and the new fans. And by the way, Adrian, I don't know you personally. I'm sure you're a great person, and I'm happy that you're a listener to our show, first time listener. So we really appreciate it. Keep listening to us. We're on Mondays and Wednesdays at 7:30 p.m. A lot to get into. Next week, you can listen to the Weekend Crunch on 103.9 FM. After the Islander game, I think this week at 10:30. If you don't live here in Long Island, you can go to iHeartRadio and look us up, LI News Radio. You can listen to our show. It's going to be a great one. Great guest, great content always. And by the way, if you're a betting man, you definitely got to listen to it. 76% of the picks are right over the last couple of years. So they're really, really good. So, ladies and gentlemen, again, keep listening to us. We will be back next week. Thank you to Fish with his great graphics and his great content. Thank you, Scoops, for your Sports Minute and your content. Thank you, Speedy, for just being you. And by the way, next time, bring some water. It's just ridiculous. And thank you again. We'll be back next week. Good night, everybody.
You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.